Hello, my name is Bill Haley for Haley2024, the Movement's Government Reform Ideas. This video is going to be on Haley2024, introduces several new ideas into the arena of government reform ideas. So there's a lot of ideas out there about government reform. I think outside the box significantly more than any of those other ideas, or many of those. So I bring in significant ideas in here. So I don't just nibble around the edges. I go for a full radical reform of the structure of government. So let's go through a little bit. The mind cannot foresee its own advance, said Hayek. So 100 or 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 years ago, people did not realize or even can conceive of an F-22 Raptor, an advanced fighter jet. There's 1,000 parts or 100,000 parts to that plane people did not even conceive of. Most of the people, 99.9% of the people, don't even conceive of many of those parts because it's so integral just to that one plane. And it's not needed anywhere else. However, they lacked two key, but they had all the raw material. They could have made that with this. They had all the material to make it. But what did they lack? However, they lacked two key ingredients. First, they lacked the envisionment of most elements in that. So most people did not even understand what a missile could be. They knew what a stone was. They knew what a stick was, a spear was, but that's about as far as they went with compared to a missile. They didn't envision a screen. They didn't envision most of the things within the F-22 Raptor. They might have envisioned flying, but very little could envision the F-22 Raptor or anywhere close to it, much less the overall parts. All the different electronics, they had no idea what electronics even was or could even envision that. A few, maybe, here and there could envision a little bit, but not in a real world, not in a real sense. Second, people lack the knowledge. This is the thing that George Gilder points out. Knowledge is wealth and learning is growth. So we grew knowledge to the point where we could build an F-22 Raptor throughout the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. We grew that knowledge into the 70s and 80s and 90s. All that learning, all the experimentation with jet airplanes, then finally in the 2000s, and now coming to fulfillment in the 2023 timeframe we're in now. People lack the knowledge of how to build most of the thousands of pieces needed in the construction of a jet. So maybe they might have envisioned a flying machine, but did they really envision something going faster than speed of sound? Did they envision jet fuel? Did they envision the fossil fuel coming as seeping from the ground as fueling one of these planes? So it took a while. The knowledge, the envisionment of each part, it took a while. Haley 2024 envisions. So I envision, or before any of this has ever happened, it's happened in very minor parts. So some parts of it you might see somewhere in society to a little degree, and we'll go over a little bit of that. But to the degree that I'm talking about, it's not been envisioned. Now I envisioned it. Now I want to try to make it happen. Transitioning from elected individuals to selecting governing agencies. So democracy has only been around for, let's say, 300, 400, 500 years, and maybe in the past, in small communities, they had a little bit of democracy here or there. But America really made it possible for the world to envision democracy and elected individuals. But can we go to a governing agencies? We switch from electing individuals to selecting, well, first selecting representative agencies, then selecting governing agencies, not just to represent you, but to govern you as well. So these competitive regulatory agencies, which are competitive governance, are not geographical in nature. I mean, they will have a geographic in there, so every state will have about a dozen different competitive governance. But then within that state, I and my neighbor and the lady down the street and 5 blocks over, we all get to choose our different governments. Some of us will choose the same one, obviously. There's 12 of them. And if you're talking about 100,000, 500,000 for the state, a million or 2 million, 7 million for Virginia, maybe 8 million for Virginia. You obviously there's going to be 100,000s per, maybe even a million per competitive governance, but they only govern themselves. Has that even been envisioned to a very large degree? Not very much. Now, what has been envisioned? Elected school boards, but I'm going to competitive school boards. So we split it up into 8. So we did envision separating from one government controlling everything from finance law to police to declaring war and all that stuff, to having actual school boards, a separate board to control just the schools. Now, we have tested that a little bit with having other boards out there, mostly advisory boards, but this is something significantly different. So let's keep on going. Haley 2024 envisions a rating system, a competitive rating system, comprised of multiple rating agencies that will accurately provide quality information, because you have to get quality information if you want to gain members to your rating agencies. Everybody has to belong to one, so everybody's going to be represented within rating agency of how they want to rate, how they want to evaluate what's going on, governmental and business practices and the like. So, and that quality information will reward or punish by public information, negative externalities, and reward positive and punish negative externalities. Reward and punish positive and negative externalities, thus reducing the need for most laws. So if we just know the standards, do we need to have a monopolized law? No. To a large degree, no. Not if we know it, because the knowledge that the citizen has from multiple sources put together in one rating score, then that will allow people to know, don't go to this restaurant, go to that restaurant. Food safety ratings and the like. Or banking. This banking regulatory agency, they're favoring only the bank, and people, customers get messed over too often. On the other hand, a bank's not going to choose one that just messes over the bank every time and gives the decision to the customer. So there has to be a good balance in between, and this forces a good balance. That has not been really envisioned before. Obviously, the competition between different companies can do that, but do we have a rating system to properly inform people? A competitive rating system. That's where the envisionment, that's the reform, is the competitiveness of not just the rating system, but the competitiveness of the regulatory system. Haley 2024 envisions governance split into 30 sectors. We'll go over all 30 sectors in a little bit, but we're talking education is split from police, that's split from environmental control, that's split from governing over roads, that's split from governing over environmental concerns, over financial concerns. We got 30 different sectors. Family law will be one sector. So that is an envisionment that really is not out there right now. Again, we have a little bit of that with the separate school board, but I don't just go separate school board, but I go competitive school board. So it takes that to another level. Haley 2024 lays out the structure in which the free enterprise system can fully thrive to serve the entire population the best. So this is a structure that, in my opinion, will allow the free enterprise system to fully thrive with good quality information, multiple regulatory agencies, and not having a monopoly on regulations. Again, there might be a tad bit of stuff that it just causes too much negative externality not to have, but that will be few and far between. And I believe this is a structure to allow the most. People who want to have little to absolute zero government, they still want a system to have trust. They want to have trusted judges. They want to have trusted firms or private rating agencies or regulatory agencies, such as the Better Business Bureau to help regulate and keep people in line, or the different labs to make sure medicine's okay, or to make sure electronics are properly done and not going to cause a fire hazard. Anyway, let's keep on going. The complexity of the free enterprise system should always stay with individuals. Too often, the government, the monopolized government we have right now, goes way into the free enterprise system and starts significantly messing with the role of prices and the like. Businesses and private organizations never representative control. Again, representative control monopolized representative control. So the complexity of the free enterprise system, like almost all the spending, is going to be done by individuals or competitive governances, which is going to act like free enterprise to a very large degree. So that's what I envision. Competitive school boards, that's so huge, where I have a full video on it, so but go out there and look at that. But hope space on my website. But basically, every parent selects what school board within every city, within every state. They pick what school board they want to go with that matches their values on all the controversial issues and the like. Competitive charity system. Get rid of welfare, go to a competitive charity system. I envision a full system. Look at those videos. But this is what we can envision. And then once we envision it, we can try to move towards it. And I have a lot of policies and a lot of ways to get towards that. It doesn't have to be jumping in day one. We stop welfare on Thursday, and on Friday expect charity to pick up everything up. We can work towards it. We have transition pieces. Competitive police systems, highly important. There are communities in this nation that are hostile to police. If we force everybody to have their own police contract and we have competitive police, yes, we do have a system to make sure everybody's trained, have internal affairs over everybody, so we have oversight. We do make sure we can kick people out when they start infringing on people's liberties. So we do have a method, and the people, the citizens have tremendous amount of power, and the representative bodies. I have several representative bodies surrounding that to make it a lot better than the current system. So we envision private police and competitive police, competitive governance on police. We envision it, and only after we envision it can we move towards that. Competitive military. Again, the oversight I have on this is so much better than the oversight that we currently have in the private military, in the public sector military. We don't allow the private military to control their own missions. It has to be done by an elected official through the votes. And we have a system with many checks and balances, a lot more checks and balances than we have right now. But the free enterprise that I bring into the private military, and to allow the role of prices to work to give us the best military for the dollars that we spend, is going to be tremendously better. But only after we envision, only after we set out the vision, then can we start moving towards that. And again, there are steps we can take to start moving towards that. There are things we can start setting up oversight boards, and we can start setting up the different mechanisms for this. Competitive retirement for Social Security. A lot of people hate Social Security. Some people love it. They don't realize the damage it is doing. People who are elderly receiving income and medical care, that's a very, very good thing. How we get there is extremely important. We're doing it very, very poorly now through government control, politician control, having more control on a competitive governance system, competitive retirement plans, and not just relying on your businesses, your employers' pension plans or the government's pension plan, but to have a competitive system where everybody gets to select how they want to do this. So it's a lot better system, and only after we envision something that can replace the Social Security plan and have a much better results, then we can actually start taking steps towards that. Competitive roads. Right now, most people cannot envision competitive roads or private roads. A lot of roads are private. Now, they're more in homeowner association, they're in certain things. So we already have some of this. But to get rid of taxes to fund our roads and go to a private road system done by tolls with transponders and the like, only after we show the method, envision the competitive roads, then can we start moving towards it. Competitive currencies. The fiat currency we currently have right now, yes, it is backed up by things of real value, by things that the Federal Reserve owns, mortgage-backed securities, the gold, and many other assets they have. It is backed up, but it's a monopoly, and it has way too much power, and it's allowing the federal government to use it to spend way more than they can collect in taxes, which means they're using it for a inflation tax, and they're not legally allowed to do that. Constitutionally, they're not allowed to do what they're doing, but they're doing it. And only after we envision, we show the way we can do competitive currencies, fully backed up, 1,000 or so currencies, can we truly move towards a competitive currency, a better way of doing money. Competitive healthcare system. We currently have a one-size-fits-all set of regulations. The FDA is overwhelmingly powerful. Health and Human Services, or whatever the name is for the Federal Health and Human Services Department. Way too much power. Medicaid, Medicare, the power these places have are tremendous, and it forces people into certain business models. All these healthcare companies into certain business models and excludes so many business models. It is doing so much harm. We need to go to a competitive system, and only after we envision can we actually start implementing and moving piece by piece over to a competitive system, disconnecting your job as being your supplier of health insurance benefits. We need to go away from that and have a competitive system with more individual control of how they want their healthcare system. If you want a socialized system, there's going to be several that's going to meet that definition that you're going to buy into, but it's not going to be, you get to decide to go into them. Let's keep on going. Corporate proxy groups. There's so many corporations in America right now, and not many people are able to utilize the power they have in voting their proxy, voting their share of the company. When you own share of any big corporation, you actually have power in that vote. You are a part owner, therefore you have power in that vote. But we don't have a good, easy way to utilize that power in that vote. Not unless you own a lot and you're a big power broker. But the common man has a lot of shares that they don't have enough of any one share to really make a difference. So corporate proxy groups is a way that you can turn over your proxies to your shares to a proxy. They collect a lot of them, and they'll have real power to do what you want to do to a proxy group that you agree with. So if you want more social justice or a lot less social justice into it, you can. My plan for currency, competitive currency, is going to help with that as well. Foreign policy, pockets of freedom. There needs to be a place around the world, many locations around the world, where people who are oppressed can escape to and start their own civilizations, their own societies, their own places. I envision it. I have a method. There's a little bit of upfront money that gets repaid over time, so you can continue doing this over and over again and allow people to be free and start controlling their own lives. 12 new constitutional amendments to rein in the federal government's overreach. Significant, powerful amendments, not just a nibble around the edges, but significant power controls taken away from the federal government. So the Convention of States or whatever, I want powerful amendments, not anything insignificant. Now, I do have a full constitutional amendment to get to the competitive governance structure. That's something a little bit different. We want to start going towards that. We can do those in piecemeals if we want to. Obviously, I have one that is a full switch over, but and there's a transition built into that. But there's also things we can do to transition piece by piece by piece. And these are going in that direction to some degree. About 500 years ago, people started out envisioning democracy in a constitutional republic. So you go back to especially 1700s when in 1787 when we did that. America did that in Philadelphia. Now that wasn't the start of democracy and constitutional republic. People have been thinking about it, so they got their ideas from others. But this is the first time it really took hold, and we were able to hold it, militarily hold it. And that is what changed the world. Is we, a constitutional republic with limited federal government and still fairly limited state government, was able to, and significant free enterprise, was able to militarily hold the country together and move forward. Obviously, we had to get rid of the evil of slavery and the like, but the Constitution was made to start tearing away at the fabric of slavery. And then 20 years later, it was banned from coming in. And then about 50, 60 years later, it was actually banned altogether with the Civil War. So, but that the envisionment of getting rid of slavery took in the late 1700s, in the early 1700s to the middle 1700s, when it started becoming too many people saying, no, this is fundamentally wrong. Maintaining and, in fact, enhancing the representative nature of government. So what is it? What I'm talking about? So I want to start a new concept. We want to not just maintain the representative nature of government. I want to, in fact, enhance significantly the representative nature of government, with most representation coming from competitive representative agencies, going into competitive governance, leaving the representative control of all to a very narrow and necessary few items, such as overseeing and who can have a badge to be a police officer, who can have a badge or authorization to be a judge, the prosecutors and the like. Those people have to have significant oversight. We can't have competitive police out there and competitive courts out there without the ability to have oversight over the whole place, with significant ability to give them, take the badge or take the badge away, give them the authorization or take that authorization away. So we need both. That way somebody can't become a big organization, cannot become thugs out there and be politically divisive and only prosecute people, your political enemies and the like. Haley2024 reforms on helping the poor, by changing it from welfare to a charity model, and to education. The competitive school boards will curtail some of the great harms that the current government is currently doing. Haley 2024 reforms on criminal justice and the military will enhance efficiencies and professionalism. It will enhance oversight and get rid of corruption and abuse significantly more. Full representative bodies that have the sole goal of getting rid of abuse and corruption in the court system and the prison system. A separate one for the prison system and a separate one for the judges and the prosecutors. We have a lot of representative bases out there that have they can narrow down their focus on getting rid of that corruption and abuse. And first, you give good high quality information so people can know the best sunlight or the best disinfectant is good sunlight. That first. But then if that doesn't do it, people's like, oh, you know I'm corrupt, but I'm going to do it anyway. No, we have mechanisms, representative mechanisms, constitutional. I envision constitutional mechanisms to be able to pull people's badges. The citizens can pull people's badges. Let me put it strictly. 40%, or wait a minute, it takes 70% representatives of 70% of the people to give a badge, and 40% representatives of 40% of people can pull a badge. So let's keep on going. A lot more to see on Haley2024.org. I touched on most of the issues within it, but now go in there and start reading up the bullet points. Look at the videos I have for Haley 2024, the movement, and what I envision. Until the next video.